Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Libronauts. For those of you that don't know, we are a science fiction book club, and we have a new book pick every single month. All discussions are over on Fable, and most months we also have a live show here on YouTube. This month we read For Human Use by Sarah G. Pierce, and Elizabeth of Reading Riley was my co-host this month. So, hi, Elizabeth. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. How's it going, y'all? I'm Elizabeth, as Alyssa already said. My channel is Reading Riley. I think it might be backwards for you, but yeah, I mostly read horror, thriller, feminist fiction. I do like sci-fi too, though, but I'm very specific about the type of sci-fi that I like. I like sci-fi that has to do with like time travel. I like futuristic dystopian type stuff. Mostly like anything that's just like speculative generally that fits into that sci-fi era range. I really like. Yeah, I have a book club called the Midnight Society Book Club, and we are a bi-monthly online book club. So every other month we do a live show and we talk about a book. And this month, or in May, we're going to be reading Her Last Breath by Taylor Adams.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be a thriller this month. But yeah, that's kind of who I am. I haven't been as present lately on my like social medias and all of that. I'm kind of going through a transitional period. So,
Yeah.
but I'm coming up with ideas, and I'm always going to be. I always put out my every 3 months my most anticipated books that are coming out, and so that's one that you can for sure count on.
Perfect. Yeah, I saw that a couple weeks ago now, I think. You put your most recent one out. Yeah. So yes, I will have Elizabeth linked in the show notes, so be sure to give her a follow if you don't already. And then this is your second time with the book club. The first book, what was that? Glass Houses by Madeline Ashby. Yeah. So very cool. Happy to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for anyone that is here, or if you're watching later, go ahead and let us know in the comments if you read the book, what you rated it. And then while you do that, Elizabeth, do you want to go ahead and give a spoiler-free synopsis of this very strange little book?
Well, I wouldn't call it little.
But that's true. It's
400 pages, 440 pages or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very genre bending. It's kind of like, it's hard to even like set a genre to it. Like I want to say it's dystopian, but it's not quite dystopian. And it's also referenced as a rom-com, but it's not quite a rom-com. It's not quite any specific genre. It's also said to be horror, but basically the main gist is that we have this world that is basically our world, but in this world there is this new app, and it is this venture capitalist type of deal where this guy is coming out and saying, I have this idea, and the idea is that humans get on this app and they match like Tinder or anything else, but they match with a corpse, and then the corpse is sent to their home and they just do whatever they want with the corpse. And so, but what's interesting, I think, is that this is kind of like from the point of view of the company almost. Like it's very much like a big picture framework, like from the outside looking in on this, as like a fable or like a cautionary tale, like be careful. There's a lot of commentary in here as well. But yeah, we're following 3 main characters, and they each represent something different to this company. But the main focus, I would say, is definitely the company. It's called Live. And that's how I would pitch it, I guess.
Yes. And you're so right, because I mean, I did hear multiple times from multiple sources, and I even put it out there too, that this was like a horror rom-com and, you know, definitely sci-fi, but I kept waiting for like, yes, there's some horror, but not really. Yes, there's some rom-com, but not really. So yeah, you're right. It's like,
it's kind of
weird.
Yeah. I think it is without doubt satire,
Mm-hmm.
which for me in particular can be difficult sometimes, especially on the written page. Like I feel like I can understand satire much better when it's on a different medium, like
Mm-hmm.
a film or a TV show, or even if it's like music or a musical or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. For some reason, it's hard for me to like catch on sometimes um, when it's a written word. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but,
Did you do the audiobook as well, or did you just read it physically?
I did mostly audio.
Okay.
And I had the book to reference, and I have like it was. Well, we can get into that later.
Alrighty. So you and I will keep our ratings until the very end.
Okay.
But from this point forward, for anyone watching now or later, if you do not want spoilers, this would be a good time to head out because we will definitely be talking about spoilers from this point forward. The first thing that I wanted to discuss was the title because I definitely had an idea of what the title for human use meant going into this, and it definitely changed by the end. So I was curious for you, Elizabeth, what your thoughts on that was.
I don't know that my idea of what I thought it meant necessarily changed at the end, but like it kind of like does kind of have like a different angle of looking at it, I guess. But like
Mhm.
it's basically like I feel like the main thing of this whole book is this like commodification of intimacy, and then also like tech culture and
Yeah.
venture capitalism, like how that defines a culture almost,
Mhm.
because it's like slipped in a way to like make your opinion change subtly over time. And so, but basically for human use, it's like packaging, right? You say for human use, and then you think of like, okay, something that's been on a package, it's okay to eat, it's okay to
Mhm.
use, or whatever it may be. So like that's the generally what I feel like it means. But I think the title itself is satire because we're saying this is for humans to use. Like, is the live is for humans to use,
Mhm.
but the humans that they're using are not humans, but they're
Mhm.
for use. So we're completely removing their agency,
Mhm.
and there's a whole lot of like gray in there. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, what did you think? What was your first impression of it?
My first impression was just like for human use, like this is for humans to use, like this app where people are swiping to get matched with a cadaver that'll just be delivered to their home and then they can, do whatever they want with them. But I feel like towards the end, it almost felt like for human use, like how humans are used, like in what capacity humans are used.
Oh, I like that. I didn't even think about that.
Because, like, as the book went on, it seemed more and more that I don't know. And to be completely honest, I think a lot of this book was a little over my head,
Hmm. Same.
particularly the venture capitalist portions. And like I didn't do any research on the author. I probably should have, but I'm like, this girl must have she must have an MBA in finance or something because
Like
all
I read her. Sorry, I have to put my hair up. I'm so hot.
no, you're
I
good.
read Goodreads description or whatever, and it said this is her debut, so she doesn't have any
Yeah.
other novels. But it did say
Mhm.
something about like I think she grew up in California or something, and then she moved to New York City, and
Mhm.
she lives in Manhattan, and it's definitely giving highbrow.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like she's a very smart woman.
Mhm.
Um, I will say though, like it was hard for me to get into this. Like
Yeah.
all through part one was very difficult. I listened to parts over and over again because I was like, wait, am I supposed to be getting something else out of this that I'm not getting? I was like,
Mhm.
where are they trying to set up here? Like, where is this going? And it kind of felt like that for a lot of the time when I was
Yeah.
reading it. Um, it kind of feels to me like the whole concept of this, like even though it is satire, like the
Mhm.
way that it's marketed, I feel like is setting up for a book that is from the perspective of the users. Like that's what I would have liked to have seen is like
Mhm.
maybe like different characters that we go back and forth, and each one of them uses the corpse in a different way or has a
Mhm.
different relationship with the corpse. Um, and to show you like all the different ways. But
Mhm.
this is really like um it's just very, yeah, like the big picture was very hard for me to like get into. And I think it's very
Mhm.
literary and it's very like I said, highbrow. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't necessarily fun for me to read, but I do think she has a lot to say and I like what she's saying, but I wish it would kind of have been gone about differently.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I was also feeling that way as far as hoping to get, the user's point of view, even like a personified point of view of one of the corpses would have
Ooh,
been interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of changes it because like the whole idea that they're playing with is that the corpse doesn't have agency,
Right.
right? And it's not a person anymore, which is why it doesn't need to have rights or whatever. Like you're not
Mhm.
violating its rights because it's not a person anymore. Like
Mhm.
that was the hardest leap for me.
Mhm.
Because like wouldn't these people's family be like, no, you cannot have my son's corpse just to be at your house with you? Like
Right.
I imagine like the families of these corpses would be irate.
Yeah.
Again, at the same time, she's purposefully trying to say that like this is how it's a slippery slope because we get you to say that's okay about one thing and then it takes it
Mhm.
to the next step and then the next step and then we're scaling it up like a business because that's what it is when it's actually human connection and
Mhm.
intimacy. And
Mhm.
she's like really comparing this to like where we are going as far as like our culture.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned too that you said she was originally from California and then went to New York City. So it made me think like, okay, we've got the Silicon Valley, we've got Wall
Mm.
Street. So that kind of makes sense with
It
like,
does make sense. Yeah.
yeah,
I think she said her husband is a poker player. And she's like,
that also makes sense. There's a lot of poker in here.
I feel bad like that I didn't absolutely love this just because
Mhm.
it isn't debut.
Mhm.
And obviously, like, I just keep picturing myself in her shoes. Like, if I had gone through all of that to write this and someone's like, well, meh. But like, at the same time, I have to be honest,
Mhm.
like, that's the whole point of all this. And I did not have a great reading experience with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, whoopsies. Ugh, stupid timer. Okay, there we go. I always accidentally click the timer for the banner. So overall thoughts of the book. Me personally, and you kind of mentioned this as well, part one was a little hard to get through. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, sir, lay down, please. Um, yeah, part one was so boring and almost annoying to me because it was very much like the business aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And people would not shut up about live and like this whole idea of corpses. And it's like, does nobody in this book have anything else going on in their life, anything else worth talking about? Or are
Mm-hmm.
we just not seeing that? So I'm like, is this intentional or is this part of the satire where it's like
Mm-hmm.
society is just completely obsessed with this one thing and that's all anyone's talking about? So part one was really hard for me to get through. I would not have been able to do it if I was not tandem reading it with the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got into part two, and once the love story, if you will, ugh, well, I guess there was a timer on that banner. There we go. Once the love story between Tom and Mara kind of got going,
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit more invested.
Same. Yeah.
So yeah, I think from there to the end, it was a little bit better, but still a lot more business side of things than I would have liked, I think.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Um, yeah, I think I agree with you about that. Like the beginning was kind of hard to slug through.
Mhm.
And like I said, like my reading experience, not awesome, but I do love social commentary in a book and I love what this is saying. I would just wish it had been gone about a different way. There was that
Mhm.
one part when I think it was in part one still, where they're like interviewing or doing like not interviewing, but
Oh,
doing
like
like
the focus group?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
with the guys, right?
Mhm.
And so these guys were like clearly incels.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, is that where this is going? What we're saying, like, this is the kind of culture that we are reinforcing. And um, but then they start going into like other different kinds of people who are also
Mhm.
using Live, not just.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, it's not just that. But for a little while, I was like, should I be offended by this? Because, like, Auden, for example, like, he's supposed to be this, like, woke liberal guy. And he's like,
Mhm.
look, we can't deny people access to something that makes them feel good, or whatever,
Mhm.
But he's, oh, shoot, I forgot where I was going with that. Um, Auden. Oh yeah. So like I'm thinking, is she trying to crap on like a liberal agenda? Like, is she trying to say that like people who are woke, quote unquote, are like taking it so far that it's
Mhm.
essentially like dating corpses? Like that's how far this like that's what you're doing right now? Because I was kind
Right.
of like, am I offended? Like, should I be offended a little bit? I don't think so. I don't think that she was trying to say that. I think she was intentionally trying to make me uncomfortable, which obviously
Mhm.
um but I like generally, like overall, I really like how she put this, like the themes and what we get from this, as far
Mhm.
as like she is. Well, I guess we'll get into that more in a little bit too. But painting a picture of our own world, and
Mhm.
then just like exaggerating these little pieces to kind of show us like what could be. Like we're not
Mhm.
that far removed from this. I think
Mhm.
that's like the idea of that. And I really like that because as a premise, people like dating or like living with human corpses is extreme, very
Mhm.
um and I think a lot of things happen that are very extreme in our culture that we should acknowledge, but we
Mhm.
don't. So there's a lot of good like layering in there of like how we are affected by consumerism and how we're affected by these, tech companies and
Mhm.
people, like direction that we're headed in general as a culture.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So with those three main characters then,
Mhm.
and you did kind of mention like they each kind of represent like a certain view of this company. Mara probably the furthest removed, but of these three people, like what did you think of their character
Mhm.
in as detailed as their involvement with Liv and then is, as far as just your
Mhm.
opinion in general? Um yeah,
Sure.
go ahead. You can go
Uh,
first on this one.
well, the character that I probably related to the most was Tom.
Same.
Tom felt to me like the only straight guy in this comedy. Not
Mhm.
like straight as like the opposite of queer, but like
Right.
straight like the straight man in the comedy. Like he's
Yeah.
walked into this world and he's like, what is happening right now?
Mhm.
How is this for real? So
Yeah.
like he's the one that I related to the most because I feel like
Mhm.
that's like clearly that should be your reaction if this is happening. Um but and then Mara represents like this other side of it because like Tom, as far as Liv goes, he's absolutely opposed to it, but he's
Mhm.
also still like working for them. He is involved in its succession. He's involved
Mhm.
scaling and it's making money. And he's just kind of like this like passive guy where he's like, I don't agree with this morally,
Mhm.
but I'm not gonna do anything to stop it because it's like it's helping me personally.
Mhm.
A lot of people, whether or not they want to admit to it, would probably fall in that group.
Mhm.
And then Mara is like, she's like the manic pixie dream girl, but she's also like, she is way more comfortable in a relationship that has security and that, doesn't represent risk because of some
Mhm.
that she's been through and all of that. So she's a little bit more open to this idea while not exactly like on board like Auden.
Mhm.
But Auden, again, is pushing this. And I think Auden sees a lot of the same things as Tom as far as like where the problems are, but his choices are different because he's just choosing to commodify this even more and to scale it up and do everything he can to, you know, rise himself up on the ladder, you know? So like all of this though, like in this whole love triangle between the three of them, like first of all, Tom and Mara are step siblings. And I think that's almost like she's grooming us with that. Like she's like, okay, react to this. Yeah, they're step siblings and they're dating. And she's almost like, are you comfortable with that? Because if you're comfortable with that, let's move on to, you know, living with corpses. It's kind of almost like she's like bringing us in a little bit with that, trying to our comfort level or at least like push the envelope a little bit. And then like none of them though, like Tom and Auden hate each other. Tom's in love with Mara. Auden's in love with Mara. But like at the same time, none of them are truly connecting. Like there's all of this missed opportunity. And I think like it says a lot more about like, even without these corpses, like this is a reflection of our current like situation because even though we all speak the same language, like nobody is actually connecting. Nobody's like what something means to me means something different to you. What security means to me means something different to you, you know? And so like they're all just like passing each other. They're not connecting at all. They're not getting each other. And so it's like this terrible cycle or like system of these three like throwing what do you throw a home run? What is this, a baseball? You're throwing it, strikeout, strike. My sports analogies need work. But yeah, it's very complicated and it's very unsatisfying. Like no one really like gets what they want, you know? Like, okay, this is life. And I kind of is trying to say there again, but at the same time, as I've said before, like that does not make for a fun reading experience for me. Like I wanted that build up. I wanted that, you know, that climax, I guess, but like it just felt like it didn't end the way I thought it would, or that I never knew exactly where she was going with it until like after the fact where I'm like, okay, like I kind of get it, but like it's not fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you have any specific thoughts about the three of them?
Well, I definitely agree with you that Tom is the most relatable. And I feel like that is definitely done on purpose because of any of those three characters, Tom is probably the one that we should relate to the most. And I think you kind of touched on that a bit. And I think I can't remember if I ended up putting this in Fable or if I just thought it, but I'm like, I feel very sane reading this book because I like, and I didn't put this in the discussion question, but we should talk about it. I would not be open to like living with a corpse. Like that freaks me out
I would
so
not.
much. No. And I don't get it. I don't.
Beyond just the idea that this is someone's corpse, is someone's dead body.
Yeah.
It's gross. Like it's decaying. It's literally actively decaying.
It was
like,
leaking. They kept talking about how it would leak. It's like,
it's
ew.
gross. Why? I hate it.
No. And it's so like, well, I was gonna say there's something else, but we can talk about that more in like when we talk about consent and intimacy. But
okay.
So I'll hold that. I'll try not to forget it. The love triangle though, like Auden and Mara, I feel like, and I like how you kind of put it as like a little test, like, hey, are you okay with this? Step siblings dating? Because that's so true. Like, that's such a taboo thing. Like, are they blood related? No. I think they were like
their parents were
older
married
kids or teenagers. Yeah, like they weren't step siblings for very long. They were a little bit older, so it's not like they truly grew up together. But still, they're step siblings. So
like,
there is
like, yeah, they're not blood siblings, but you know,
right.
if that was like public, it would be it would be all over it would be a headline,
Yeah.
like state, you know, and it would have a lot. It's very taboo. Like, yeah, it's
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was a little weird. Um, but the dynamic between Tom and Auden was kind of interesting because they hated each other and they butted heads in two different ways, like in the business side of things, because Tom just really did not agree with him. He thought he was kind of a jackass. He didn't agree with how he ran his business or any of the decisions that he made. And then also, you know, two guys fighting over a girl.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
A
very
lot
interesting dynamic.
of conflict there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, alrighty. The come on, scroll. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is there were so many things in this book that I'm like, this feels like our world, but it's
Mhm.
very different. So I was curious what your thoughts were. What did you feel was truly the same in the book world and our world? What were things that were like super different? And what were things that could be a metaphor for something in our world, if that
Oh.
makes sense?
Huh. Oh, no, I didn't really think about this question like that, but I'd be interested to hear what you think about that, specifically of like the metaphor. But
Mhm,
I think like basically this is our world, and I think that's the point. Like the structure is very similar, the way
mhm,
like people in tech have so much power that's kind of like unseen through what's being sold. There's no morality in
right.
um what's the word? You know, in our type of society, capitalism. There's no
Mm,
morality. It's like,
right,
okay, can it make money? Yes. Okay, well then we're gonna do it. So like
right.
that's where the moral part stops, right? And that's the same in the world that we live in. It's
Mhm,
not may not be people living with corpses, but it's other things every single day. This is
mhm,
just a small, like an exaggeration of what is already happening in our world. And I think that's why it is impactful in that way, because the part that she's exaggerating is just very, very few. It's
mhm,
very much reflective of the world that we're in. And we're just changing a couple of little things here and there, like this app where you can order corpses.
mhm,
Um, and the way, like the trajectory of that and how it affects people, I think is really creative in the way that she thought about it and really like focused on like how would this have an effect on people and how would this change things, like the trends on TikTok and everything where people were
mhm,
pretending to be dead and they're like, which one's dead, which one's alive, and it's
mhm,
just like, so things like that, like where it seems so insane for us to like talk about right now in our world,
mhm,
but there was this small change where like that was now okay. And culturally, we've seen changes like that happen over the years from generation to generation. You
mhm,
know, there are things now that back in my parents' day were never okay, even things
mhm,
like marriage, you know?
mhm,
And so, like, we see things become more acceptable, but I think we don't necessarily think about the things that are like potentially harmful,
mhm,
like, or that like we don't think about how it would not harmful, but like how that would affect other people socially and like the culture and like little things that that would spiral into. It's almost
mhm,
like a trickle effect, you know?
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, generally I feel like it felt like our world, like almost exactly like our world, which is why it's also so terrifying, because it's like something like this could really happen, and a lot of stuff like this is happening. Maybe not this specific thing, but it's happening. You know,
mhm,
like not that, but like a lot of stuff that's not morally or ethically okay, and
mhm,
it goes by undetected because of the potential money that it can make, and because of the people um in that position of power that have the ability to say, no, this is unethical, we're not going to do it. They're
mhm,
not making that. And that's just
right,
something that's on repeat every day, especially in the
mhm,
US.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
what kind of metaphors were you thinking about when you were saying like things
Well,
that
the big thing for me, I think, was the outrage, like the public outrage on both sides, people that were against Liv and people that were so for it and against people trying to like oppress their right to live with a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of makes me think of things happening in our world right now that people have outrage about. But I think in this, it was taken to an extreme where, at least not that I have seen. So I'm not saying that it's not this extreme anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
but like the extreme in which people were, attacking the opposite side. Or so, it makes me think of like a lot of the touchy stuff going on right now, like women's rights and ICE and, things like that, just human rights in general. So that just kind of kept coming to mind for me when I'm reading all of these, like the outrage and of people leaving, comments and everything on social media and news reports and things like that that we were seeing. But then as far as like what felt, I do agree that a lot of this felt the same as our current world. But the things that felt different were just like little things and they were kind of subtly hinted at. And I don't know if I would have recognized it if I didn't intentionally look for them. And I do that when I read books for this club, is I look for things that are like sci-fi or dystopian. So things that I picked up on were at the beginning, I think it was Tom, he said something about like China not taking our recyclables or something. Um, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the Chinese had stopped buying US recyclables, but it didn't like go into detail on why that is. Um, and then the whole idea, and this again, we could probably talk a little more when we get to the intimacy section and consent, but talking about the generation, specifically the one that was in that focus group, so like under 25 or like maybe up to 25, how
Mm-hmm.
they're not being as physically intimate as past generations. And the one guy in that focus group, he even said something along the lines of like, um, he wants to live with a corpse or he wants to date a woman who is dead, because they were very picky about how they said it. They didn't want to say a dead woman, but a woman who is dead.
Uh,
But that he felt like he was saving women who are living from
mm-hmm.
his bad habits or whatever because he doesn't know how to date somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
so like,
I can see how she got there though, because
yeah.
that type of guy is lonely. There is
Mhm.
like this is another real thing that's similar. There's a loneliness epidemic
Mhm.
happening,
Yeah.
but this is not the reason. That's not the reason. It's a
Mhm.
systemic like function. It's
Mhm.
because of all of these things that these particular people are feeling excessively lonely, and
Mhm.
those particular people have gotten the message through social media, through culture in general, that like you can't treat women aren't dating you because they have higher standards, because
Mhm.
they want to be treated, respected. They want to be cared for and loved. They want equal companionship. And this
Mhm.
same group is also being told that women are less than. And so there's that juxtaposition there of saying like, oh, well, like they are less than, but also like they are holding this over me. Like who gave
Mhm.
them that power? Like how dare you have that power? And so I can kind of see how she got from that to like I'm saving them, because it's like
Mhm.
this like culture of like to like look like you're being the bigger person type of thing, like this like performative type of allegiance with
Yeah.
like woke idea. And so like I did like that part too, like you were saying, like that made a lot of sense to me.
Mhm.
um and that like really like I connected to that. um but yeah, it's not just them though. It was like everyone, like so many other people as well, but that
Mhm.
definitely stood out to me. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, that's perfect. I'm glad you like dove deeper. I feel like you were getting what I was getting at, but I'm like stumbling over my thoughts on it. So,
No, you did.
um,
You did great.
Sometimes I feel like I just start rambling and I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't either. I don't either. It's fine. None of us do.
Um, and then I think the last thing that I found super weird was Kane. He did not know what the word triggered meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. I don't know if you could hear that banging. My kids are home. So who knows?
Yeah. The wormhole. It's a
Yeah.
black hole.
Um, but I'm like, so is triggered in the sense that we know it not a thing in their world?
Hmm.
Although somebody was able to kind of explain it to him, but I'm like, why did the author feel the need to have that added in there so much so that a character had to actually spell it out what it meant,
Hmm.
you
That is
know?
an interesting point. I do think that like Kane was kind of meant to be like the older generation, like
Yeah.
representing that like, like the boomers, the like,
Mhm.
the people, the old dudes who have been running these companies since the 80s and they just give out the money. They're like, I
Yeah.
have money. I don't agree with it, but okay, it's gonna make me money, like, and so
Mhm.
I think she was probably trying to say like how show how disconnected he is from like actual people. I mean, that's
Mhm.
basically what she's saying, like what she's saying for every character in this book. Like they're
Yeah.
disconnected. We're
Yeah.
all disconnected. So maybe like for him, that was like his like he's just so old school and like good old boy that he's like has no idea how to talk about feelings.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Alrighty. So we did kind of talk a little bit about this already, but if there was anything else that we didn't touch on yet, what were some of the things that were normal in the book that we see as hella extreme?
I mean, the dating and living with dead people,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Like, but you still kind of even see like the transition to that. But that's
Hmm.
definitely the main thing.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said before, like the like how it evolves, like they were talking about
Hmm.
like trends on TikTok and all of that, like how it evolves, and like even to the point where people are like, I'm gonna kill you, and that's okay.
Hmm.
I want to have your body. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we can get to that in consent, I guess. Again. Um, but like it's been so they've been so jaded at this
Hmm.
point and like so just like turned off as far as like their individual thought process about this particular thing that it's like
Hmm.
normalized to do other things like killing people for their bodies because like I want
Hmm.
your body, I want to hang out with you, I'm gonna just take a gun up here and take you home.
Yeah.
Like, so like that stuff obviously in our world would not fly.
Right. Right. And then I think kind of part of that as well was the um what did Auden say it was called now? I can't remember. Because Tom called it suicide, and Auden's like, that's not what we call it anymore.
Hmm.
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't remember that. Was it self exit? That's
It's
kind of the
very sim
that I've heard.
yeah, very similar. Oh no, and I don't think I marked it. Ah, well, anyways, so the whole trend of like people just becoming so desensitized to death and
Uh-huh.
that they didn't like right now, I feel like in our world, we know there's a very big difference between being alive and being dead. And many people, most people have a fear of that transition. But the people in this story, and I think specifically younger people, because they talked a lot about like students,
Mm-hmm.
teenagers, and I think that could maybe be because, hormones and puberty and everything like that playing a role. But
Yeah. You
they
said
were,
affecting American youth. That was a quote. I
yes.
don't know, but probably Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once the kids do it, once the kids think it's cool, like there's no
Hmm.
stopping it. It's like
Hmm.
baby shark at that point.
Yep. Yep. So I think like the first big story that came out was that girl that, ended up hanging herself, and
Mm.
nobody knew that it was actually her unaliving herself. And
Mhm.
I feel like that was kind of the big beginning to that. And then they talked about like the group of cheerleaders that did that, and but they did it like with a camera on a timer so it could post on social media after the fact, and just all this crazy stuff. Like
Mhm.
that, I think that was probably the most unsettling part of this book, was just how okay they were with it. Not only
Mhm.
with people that they know, but with themselves.
Yeah. It's almost
So,
like you're comparing this thing that for us seems like it should be like extreme in
yeah.
general. And she's comparing that to like, like a Labubus, you know. It's like Labubus, like, yeah, they're ugly, they're not really pretty, but like they're popular and they caught on, and then like it starts trending, and then like
Mhm.
everyone wants a Labubu, and that's basically what's happened here with
Yeah.
Liv. Is like it caught on, and then like everyone just has to have one. I really just want to know what they're doing with those corpses. What are you doing with it? Like,
Well,
because they
I,
touched on SA in
mhm.
there a lot. Like, are you doing it? And especially Tom is questioning, like, are you
Yeah.
touching them? What are you doing? Are you actually SAing them, or like, is it
Mhm.
something else? Are you just sitting with them? Are you polite with them? Like, I want to know what they're doing.
Mhm.
That's why I want to see this from the perspective of the users,
Yeah.
the Live users, because I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
It's like how different, like there can be so many different motives,
Mhm.
as far as like, someone who's like really lonely and just really needs like companionship, or what they think is companionship. And so they can't make friends. And so they settle for this, person. It's almost like also like the same as like parasocial relationships in a sense,
Mhm.
because you are you think you have this connection, but there's nothing else coming back. Like you're giving, but you're not getting because you
Mhm.
literally can't corpse.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I guess that's all I have to say on that. It's a
Yeah.
lot besides what.
Well, and I think very much like Tom's thoughts, like that's probably where most people's rational mind would go, is to
Mhm.
assume that that's what's happening. Like, why
I
else?
assume. I do assume. I
Yeah.
do assume that if
Yeah.
that were the case, that would be something that is happening. But I
Yeah.
also think there are people who would not. Like there are obviously I would not. I know you would not. But
Right.
would those people still want a corpse? And if so, why? You know?
I mean, I guess what I took from it is that in most cases, it wasn't essay. It was they did truly just want that companionship, or parents wanted one for their kid because their kid was lonely. And then parents would be in an uproar when, the movement started where the government started taking them away, and then there was a shortage of bodies, and parents were like, my child has a right to having a corpse, and all this crazy stuff. So like I would assume it has to do more with loneliness than,
Mhm.
you know, a need, a sexual
It,
desire.
but it's not a fix. It's literally like empty,
Mhm.
empty. Um, it's just this like facade. It's literally
Mhm.
a facade. It's a body.
Mhm.
And you can't, like, yes, relationships are challenging, obviously, and they can be really uncomfortable, and you have to like make yourself vulnerable to a certain extent so that somebody can know you. And that's also where like the joy and the like pleasure of being in a relationship and being able to rely on somebody comes from. But you
Mhm.
have to be able to be willing to experience that discomfort, that you have to go through in order to gain that trust, because that's how you get to know somebody. So really, this is all just hollow. Like it's the idea of intimacy without actually having intimacy. And
Mhm.
so it's just false. It's all false.
Mhm. Yeah. And speaking of intimacy, um, yeah, I want to talk about how the novel portrayed that, because, and I don't know
Mhm.
if this is just me, but I always connect intimacy to like a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
I know you can have intimacy with a loved one that is, non-sexual, um, completely platonic. But in general, I always connect those two, intimacy to romantic relationships. But I do feel like, and kind of connected to what I said about how I think in most cases, people that wanted a corpse wanted it for companionship. It
Uh-huh.
did seem to me that intimacy in this book was more along the lines of the platonic type.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, we come back to just loneliness. Like
Mhm,
people are lonely and people are lonely today, you know? Um, but yeah, it's basically like a product supply chain. What's the problem? The problem is people are lonely. How do we fix it? Okay, well, we give them a body to sit with. Okay, how do we commodify that? How do we make that into something that's sellable and scalable and how that we can make money off of? And it's
mhm,
like that is just like regular like marketing technique, like anyone would do that. And so you're basically taking intimacy, which is something that should not be able to be bought, and
right.
is, I guess, to an extent. If you think about like sex workers and stuff, you can buy closeness, but I even
Mhm,
don't even know if you would call that intimacy. I think intimacy is like a very personal thing.
mhm,
And so calling it intimacy or like talking about intimacy at all when it relates to this, it's like it's satire because there's
mhm,
nothing about this that is intimate.
mhm,
There's nothing about this that is like you can't be vulnerable because the other person has no personhood. They have no
mhm,
agency, have no personality. They can't talk back to you. They can't oppose your opinions and make you think
mhm,
differently. Basically, like you're talking into a mirror. Everything that you're saying is being confirmed back to you by this person who can't say anything different. You know,
mhm.
it's I don't know. It's kind of like having. I mean, I don't really understand how that's better than a pet. I feel like a dog is way better than that because they at least love you back and unconditionally.
I kind of thought
Um,
that too, but then I was like, I guess if somebody has anxiety or if they needed to like lessen something in their life, like sometimes a dog can worsen that. Like if they're a really high strung dog and you have to worry about feeding
yeah,
them and them getting sick and dying and
yeah. There is responsibility that comes with that
yeah.
too. I mean, there's responsibility that comes with live, I guess, but that to the extent of like cleaning up the leaks.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And
But
that's just
yeah, like making it into like it's making intimacy into something that you can, package up and sell in the supermarket, like
yeah.
wrapped in plastic, like here you go, here's your intimacy.
Yeah.
And like that's just not how it works. Like you have to give up something in order to get that. And that's what makes relationships between people special.
Mhm.
That we're like being vulnerable with each other. We're expressing ourselves to someone at the risk of them not liking that, at the risk of them thinking less of you or whatever it may be. Oh, you
Sorry.
okay?
No,
Yeah,
yeah, something just fell off my desk. I'm
break.
good. No.
um, so yeah, like the whole idea of intimacy in this story is a complete farce, but like it's
Mhm.
also like the point. It's like what she's trying to say is like the things that we are doing by commodifying these things, by being on these dating apps and all of that, we're swiping
Mhm.
left, we're swiping right. And we're so far removed from what it used to be because of the technology that's changed
Mhm.
that we're losing sight of what that actually is, of what intimacy actually means, and like of the not we're highlighting the drawbacks and we're forgetting about the perks
Mhm.
with anyone. If you like, if you think about people that are like have like an online relationship, like it's you never met in person, but you've
Mhm.
been like in a relationship with them for however long and you feel like you know them better than anybody. You talk to them all day, every day.
Mhm.
A lot of people I feel like in that situation are comfortable keeping it that way.
Mhm.
Maybe I've watched too much Catfish, but they're more comfortable keeping it that way because you have that support, but it's also detached. It's
Yeah.
also like I don't have to be truly vulnerable with you. I can lie to you. I can send you pictures that aren't me. Like
Mhm.
catfish or whatever. I can do all these things, and I get the satisfaction of that without having to be vulnerable.
It's safe.
And safe, yeah. And this is
Mhm.
just a couple of steps removed from that, I feel like. Like, it's not that much of a stretch, even though it is an exaggeration.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sorry, I
Some
went on.
No, it's good.
Thank you.
Something that I kind of thought of while you were saying that is maybe a little bit of entitlement as well. So,
In what way?
well, with a regular dating app, you have to express interest in somebody and they have to express interest in you as well for it
Mm,
to progress.
yes.
Some people, most of the time men, feel entitled to that reciprocated interest.
Mm,
With an app like Live, where they're essentially ordering a pizza, like they know I swipe right, then this is getting delivered to me. I'm going to get that intimacy that I'm seeking.
mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
I see what you mean. And that could like also like fits in with like the whole like incel dudes we were talking about. Like, I like they won't be with me, but I deserve that.
Mhm.
I work hard, I whatever. Um, and so I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna have it.
Mhm.
And then it becomes like just like keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, they got a corpse. I need a corpse. We gotta have a
Mhm.
corpse. Otherwise we're not in. Um, but still, yeah, I get the idea of like that I'm entitled to this. And that's exactly what like people like Kane are hoping for because
Mhm.
they can exploit that in order to make money off of people.
Yeah.
Because if you're telling somebody like you don't have this one thing, I'm gonna give that to you. All
Mhm.
you have to do is give me a few of your hard-earned dollars, and like I'm gonna give you exactly what you've been missing.
Mhm.
And it's like any other product, really. Like Temu versus real life. Like, what does it look
Mhm.
like, and what did I actually get? It's like it's not actually fulfilling what they're promising, but it's enough. It has enough support to be like, okay, it's
Mhm.
actually like catching on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's messed up. It is real messed up.
Yeah. All right. So, consent.
Mm,
Do we think the book redefined what consent looks like?
for sure, because that's not consent in my book.
Right.
Um, I cannot imagine. I literally still can't get over like the bodies just being used.
Mhm.
Okay, what if it was like you signed up for like to donate your organs?
Mhm.
Those were the only people. Like if they had stipulated that, I would be able to suspend my disbelief a little bit more on this.
Mhm.
They were like, "Oh, you're donating your organs and your whole body to a good cause. It's somebody who needs." And I can see how they could sell it that way, but she didn't even bring that up. But like,
Mhm.
so like I want to know the process. Like, what is the
Yeah.
process? Someone dies and then Liv buys the corpse. At what point were you able to legally buy a corpse? And like I just don't think it's realistic in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, which I think sometimes we have to kind of just like, okay, set that aside for the sake of like the point she's trying to make.
Mhm.
But yeah, the consent, like none of this story is considering the people that once inhabited those bodies.
Right.
You know, not once are we considering them, their families, anything. It's just like bodies. Like, where are all these bodies coming from? Where are you getting the bodies?
Right.
There's no way they could consent to that. And when it comes to like sexual assault or anything like that, we say if you cannot consent, then it's a no, right?
Mhm.
In this case, they cannot consent. So it's a no.
Mhm.
It's a no, thank you, and goodbye.
Yeah.
Like that was a stretch for me,
Mhm.
for sure. But like the only consent, yeah, that I'm concerned with, I guess not the only consent, but like the main consent that I'm concerned with is the consent of the bodies,
Mhm.
honestly, because I feel like it's just that's the most messed up thing. Is
Mhm.
that just like I would not want my body to be like go to some dude who's lonely.
Yeah.
No, like no, even if he wasn't like doing anything creepy. No,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
no, I would never consent to that. But I wonder if she had worked in something where like the family of the person before they die, they sign up for it and they say, "Yes, you can do this with my body." And then the company gives like a kickback to their families or something. It's almost like
Mm,
an insurance policy.
yeah.
Um, and then they allow their body, like I could see something like that happening
Hmm.
where it's like I want to help my family, and so I'm going to allow my body to be used like this when I'm done, and like
Hmm.
and consent to do it. But like, there's no mention of any of that in here, which is
Hmm.
disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of detail and I guess world building, if that's what you want to call it, that I probably would have really appreciated and it would have enhanced the reading experience for sure if we had that.
Oh, but it's so long already
I
too.
know. I mean, part one did not need to be as long as it was.
Yeah.
Like, cut that down.
I feel like this could have been edited. Like a lot of this could have been.
Hmm.
'Cause when I'm going to tell you about one of these books that I recommend, and I'll hold it till we get to it, but like it's very short and it
Hmm.
has so much impact in a very similar, like satirical way,
Hmm.
but it's just meat,
Hmm.
It's the meat and it's like nothing else in between. It's just like you get all that's like I don't know. I feel like that's like what the best writers can do that. They can
Hmm.
hit all the points that need to be hit with the least amount of words.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. That's hard. I don't know how to do that. But
Right.
like it's tough. It's tough. And this being her debut, I think I would definitely read from her again. I like her ideas. I like her imagination.
Hmm.
But I hope that her next book that she comes out with is, very concise
Hmm.
and like kind of like gets rid of all the fluff.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a novella from her or a short story collection just to see like her ideas in like a punchier kind of way.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so with consent, there were a couple like opposing ideas that I picked up on. And honestly, I feel like the people that were opposed to live and living with a corpse were the ones that were like their bodies, they're just bodies. But the people that were on board for it and that were actually wanting to live with the bodies, they kind of started to have like this weird, I don't know if it's like a type of psychosis, but like where they were kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like personifying these bodies in a way. So consent could not be given by these corpses. However, in the person's mind, the user's mind, they were like giving consent on behalf of the corpse, if that makes sense. And
The
they were, what's that?
the user is giving consent on behalf
Yeah.
of the corpse.
Or like saying that they are giving consent
Mm.
and they're doing like this weird respect dance, if you will. So,
Mm.
like I mentioned earlier, how they were changing the wording. It's like it's not a dead woman, it's a woman who is dead.
Mhm.
So
And
just
you say that that kid's not autistic. He's an autistic kid or an
yeah,
autistic person.
yeah, or like he has autism or
There's a lot of that in like that's all marketing though. Like
yeah.
literally like change the verbiage, change the vernacular, and then
Hmm.
that's part of what makes it acceptable.
Hmm. And
You know,
maybe that's why they were doing it that way because they're like, I get it, this is weird, but it's acceptable because it's
by calling them
respectful.
this, we are giving them respect. We are paying our
Yeah.
respect to them. I kind of see that. I didn't
Yeah.
really pick up on that as much per se, but I definitely see where you're coming from. Um, in that they like in their minds they're getting more out of this than
Hmm.
because the thing is like this isn't a classic dystopian because of that
Right.
because the users are not mad about it. They are
Hmm.
actually getting something out of it that they want.
Hmm.
In this case, it's not like they're being manipulated in a way that is not their choice. Like it
Hmm.
is their choice to spend their money on this and to buy this. So I feel like that's kind of why it separates it from like a typical like dystopian.
Hmm.
But it's also like I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird. And then like how that video of Tom and Mara when he went in to kiss her and she was hesitating because she knew there were cameras and she didn't want Auden to find out. And people saw that and immediately jumped to conclusions that he was attacking her. He was trying to like force himself on her and the
Yeah.
outrage that people had because of that.
You're like, did you ask her? Did you
Right.
ask? First of all, have you, just out of curiosity, have you ever had anyone ask, can I kiss you?
I don't think so.
I have not. And it's like a fantasy of mine where like, someone's like, can I kiss you? And I'm like, that's never actually happened in my life, you know, like
Right.
it's almost like not realistic, although I hope like we go that direction. But like
Yeah.
there is that whole like idea of like in that circumstance where they're like, well, you didn't specifically ask, so how do you know that she
Right.
consented to that?
Right.
And he's like, well, I kind of just like felt it. And there's that like gray area there too, because like that could be said on either side, whether it was wanted or
Mhm.
not, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's definitely an interesting point as far as like the consent, because and then also just like talks on the fact that they're not getting each other, they're not
Mhm.
communicating, because he thinks she doesn't like him. He's like,
Mhm.
oh man, she kicked me out or whatever, and like, but she's like trying to tell him no, it was just because the cameras are there, and he's like, oh, there's no chance, she doesn't like me,
Yeah.
boo hoo.
That was
um
frustrating, that miscommunication. Yeah.
yeah, so they're also just like they're not connecting, they're very like lacking
Like they're
this
too
this
focused on themselves and their own wants and
mm,
expectations from the situation that they're not even picking up on what the other
mm,
person's intentions are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say it changed what consent looks like in
Mhm.
this for sure.
Yeah. Now I know you mentioned a lot of this already, but I guess if there was anything deeper that you wanted to dive into as far as what role
Mm.
capitalism played in all of this.
Yeah, I think the main thing with that is just like how like I said, the lack of ethical
Mhm.
ethics in capitalism
Mhm.
is, and like people use that to make up for screwing someone over, "Oh, it's
Mhm.
just business. Sorry, it's just business. I gotta do what
Yeah.
I gotta do. It's a dollar." And I honestly feel like that's one of the things about, like, this, like, whole about capitalism in general and our system in specific that, like, really is frustrating to me because, like, if you want to succeed, you kind of have to not have ethics.
Mhm.
Like, to some extent. Like, the more you let go of your ethics and your morality, the more likely you are to be successful. And it's because of that. It's literally because of that. And it starts at the top with the people with the most money. And they want to know how to make money. And it's regardless of whether it's going to be harmful or helpful. And they're
Mhm.
obviously always going to shape it and present it in a way that it's like, this is, I'm doing you a service, or I'm,
Mhm.
doing something for you, give me your money.
Mhm.
But there's no like forward thinking about like the context of that and like how that is going to manipulate people in the society and change culture as we
Mhm.
see it. It's just and that's such a huge deal. And I feel like people that do well in business and people that do well in like tech space are
Mhm.
people that, oh gosh, I should my husband's in tech. You want to hear about this, but like without like making it be like judgmental or anything. Like my husband's the kind of personality where he is very straightforward and he's
Mhm.
very confident and he is in your face and he will come in and talk to somebody and make them feel comfortable and like be in control at all times of like the
Mhm.
room and like understanding the space and like reading the room. Whereas I'm like, I can't read the room. Like, I'm just going to be myself. And if you don't like it, like, oh no, I'm going to freak out about that. like, like, it's a very different perspective. And I feel like he's so much more placed to be successful in
Mhm.
in tech and in like venture capitalism and capitalism in general than someone like I am. And I feel like culturally that is hitting us. We're like, okay, kindness matters, especially with all of these like bipartisan, or not bipartisan, but like these opposite of that, like the very distinct opposite people and opinions culturally, politically. Like we have come to a place where we're like, okay, we need to have empathy for people, you know? And there are people that understand that, and there are people who make money. So like, I feel like that's, I don't know, that's might be kind of harsh, but like, there's not a lot of crossover, you know? And is there anything that you want to touch on that?
I mean, I guess really the only thing that I saw is, and kind of similar to what you said, like where, see a need, fill a need. I love that Robots movie. It's like an old animated movie. And that's kind of the thing. See a need, fill a need. And I feel like that's the driver behind so many business decisions. But then also at the same time, I feel like as far as empathy goes, maybe sometimes people with these big ideas and with the ability to have businesses like this, so thinking specifically of Auden, like people might do something like this anyway, as far as like spending time with a corpse. And rather than let that be in the shadows and be seen as like a bad thing, why not bring it to light and make it more of a well-known thing, more of an accepted thing? But then, yes, also there's a lot of money in it.
For both sides of that, though.
Yeah.
You know, like think about like abortion, where we're like, it's going to happen anyway. Let's give us some bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
But then like it really, I think, depends on like whose perspective you're looking at it from, the user or the corpse.
Sure.
You know, because like if you're saying like there's nothing in it for the corpse, but at the same time, like they're arguing, oh well, it's corpse, they don't know, and they don't, like that's just a body, there's no one in there, there's no soul inside that, they don't know what's happening. So like I understand that side of the argument, but at the same time, like not cool. Not cool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Usually I love to come up with a fan cast. I was just fighting for my life trying to get through this book, so I did not come up with any, but did you have any ideas of who you'd cast?
Okay, well, I did. A couple of them just before we started, but like Tom in my head, as I was reading it, is, oh, what is his name? No, I can't think of his name. Something Scott. This guy, Adam Scott.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just did what his hand is doing. That was weird. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, he would be the perfect Tom because he's like great at that, like morally ambiguous. Obviously, we have him in like. Have you seen Severance?
No. I keep getting that one and the Demi Moore one mixed up.
The Substance.
Yeah, The Substance, but I've not seen Severance.
Have you seen The Substance? Oh, so good. Severance is really good. And it's similar, his character in that, because he's he's in this tech corporation where they're literally like separating you into like two, like you have a work self and a not work self. And so it's literally same premise. We're commodifying human beings. And we're saying, okay, you can separate. You don't have to have the consequences of dealing with the memory of being in work all day. We're just going to put this other version of yourself at the desk and you get paid. Yay. So very similar kind of themes in there as well. I also recently rewatched Big Little Lies, and I love his character in that show too. He's just great. And then for Auden, I was thinking of, what is this guy's name? Hold on. Robert Sheehan. Do you know who that is? He was in The Umbrella Academy. and Misfits. He does a really great job playing these characters that are like kind of dumb, but also like cult leadery.
Oh.
Like he has a lot of influence, but he's also like kind of out there.
Uh-huh.
And he's just an interesting actor. I really like him as an actor.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recognize him, but I see that. That would be a good fit.
You should watch The Umbrella Academy. It's so good. Oh, or Misfits. Misfits was like a British. They're both like superhero, like adjacent type of stuff, but not your typical superhero stuff. More weird. And then for Mara, I was thinking kind of like I can't think of her name right now. Kate Winslet in Eternal Sunshine. Like blue hair.
Yes.
Like manic dream pixie girl. And then also I was thinking of this girl. What is her name? Sophia Lillis. She was in It. And she definitely gives me, I really like her. She's got that kind of like girl next door look, but she's also like mysterious and like has a little intrigue. And I like her too. So I was thinking about that.
Oh, I love that. Especially the guy for Tom that's like perfect.
Yes, I love him.
I'm bummed I didn't come up with anybody.
That's all right.
Okay, so I always like to ask this question if there's any other books, but also movies, shows, games, whatever that you would recommend. I only had a couple.
Okay, what are yours?
The first is actually the one that we read together previously, so Glass Houses by Madeline Ashby, because of the tech and the business emphasis. But I did like that one a lot more than I liked this. And then Black Mirror, obviously.
Oh yeah, Black Mirror.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good umbrella recommendation for weird books like this. And then the other one, it's been a long time since I've read this, but Clara and the Sun.
I haven't read that one, but they're making a film.
Oh, are they?
So, yeah, they're adapting it. I think it's, I can't remember who's starring in it, but it's someone big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't read that.
I didn't love it, but you get the perspective of like one of the robots that is just like waiting in this store to be chosen to like go home and be a companion to a child or something like that. So what that made me think of is my desire to have a POV from a corpse.
Yeah.
And maybe like that's how it would kind of play out type thing. So
yeah,
that's why that one kind of came to mind, but that's all I had.
You have the POV from the corpse because it's not something you would, ever get.
Yeah.
But like, imagine, how could you explain that? How could you explain that?
Maybe like some process in the embalmment, it like maintained brain activity to a certain extent, enough for thinking, but not movement. I don't know.
You would have to maybe they have like, what is it called? Where you're locked in syndrome. They're not really dead.
That'd be terrifying.
Oh my gosh. That would be so good. They're not like dead. They're like, my corpse never leaks. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yikes. So what about you? What did you have as recommendations?
Okay, so the one I was referencing earlier that is like on the shorter side, but also satirical and like very much like drives home the point is The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin.
Okay.
This one is definitely more traditionally dystopian because obviously these women are not wanting to be in the position that they're in where they're like being controlled by these men. But like the way this is written, it reminded me a lot of For Human Use and like the way she writes and like how I just feel like if she needs to read this before she writes her book, because it's like so short and it's still the point across and it's so impactful, more impactful because of the fact that it's short. Like sometimes like books are not as impactful when they're short because it's just like you don't have enough information. But this is a case where like we had too much information here and it needed to be like it needed to be edited down.
Yeah.
And so this one I really love for the same reasons, for the social commentary and women's rights and things like that. But just a little bit. And like similarly, it has like this strange premise where like the women are essentially like acting like robots. Like, why are these women acting like robots? You know, are they for human use? Like, that's the kind of gist of it. You know? So yeah, I think this one, if you haven't read The Stepford Wives, I only read this last year, the year before for the book club, and like I loved it, and I loved both of the adaptations. But yeah, this one, this for like the satire, like this is one that I like. I actually get it, you know, like I get it. It makes sense. It's not overly convoluted. It's not, you know, trying to do too much. It's being very blatant and very straightforward about what it's trying to say without like muddling it up. So that's why I would recommend this one.
Yeah, I did read that for your book club.
Oh, you did?
Yep, back when you did that. But unfortunately, what was
You didn't
that?
like it?
Well, I need to reread it with a different mindset because I went into it thinking I love the movie with Nicole Kidman, and it was just so different. So I was disappointed. But I
Yeah.
think if I go back into it with a different mindset, I could appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, the original adaptation too, like the like is it 70s? I don't know when that one was. It's is really good too, and probably closer to the book. As
Gotcha.
far as, like what you're expecting. The one with Nicole Kidman, they took a little bit more liberty with and to modernize it, you know.
Yeah.
But the older one is still just as good too. And then also I wanted to recommend Severance, obviously, like I mentioned before, like I think Severance is like such a great show. And I got my husband to watch it. He hates sci-fi. He hates like anything that's like fantasy or weird or not reality. And he likes it.
Oh.
It's slow moving though. It takes some patience at the beginning for sure. But once
Gotcha.
you get into it and once you start discovering the twists, it's like, what is happening? It's amazing. Okay, and then lastly, I have another book that I wanted to recommend, and that is Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. Have you read this?
I did. I love that one.
I loved this too. And I feel like this one, the reason I'm recommending this one for this is that it did an awesome job of getting across what it was trying to say, like about like the culture and the social commentary, but it also kept the plot very concise and kept it moving on. Whereas like you were interested in the characters and I'm reading this novel and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What are the twists that are happening? But then overlapping and layering in these like bits of social commentary that were like so striking. Like this was one that I just like, I felt so seen. I felt like it did both things really well and combined it into just like and just into, this isn't super long. How long is this one? 350 pages. So like if you're looking for that social commentary in there, but you also want to be kind of led by the plot and like have things moving and like a more of a faster pace, I think this would be a good option for that. And that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, those are good recs. Okay, before I just need to pull up the book cover for the next book because I don't have a copy of it yet. But while I do that, now we can go ahead and share any final thoughts. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, now's the time to do it, and then let us know what you rated it.
Oh gosh, I don't think we missed much as far as like I'm looking over my notes here. Of like the insight to like what she was trying to say. I think we kind of touched on most of that. Yeah. There's not much else I think I want to add. Like, yeah, we went over all of that. Loneliness, all of it. But yeah, so I guess I would go ahead and tell you what I rated this. And I will say I was wrestling between like a half star on this one. I was going to go half star lower, but I think I'm going to go ahead and give this 3 stars because I think that's fair.
Okay.
It is well written, and I think it did do what she set out to do. I think like I wish that like what she set out to do was also to entertain.
Mhm.
Ooh, I didn't mean that to be so much shade. It came off as really shady. I did not mean that, but like, but you know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to be, I wanted it to be faster paced.
Mhm.
I wanted to be more emotionally invested, and I wanted some kind of a payoff in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. My final thoughts. I agree. I feel like the ending wasn't necessarily satisfying.
Mhm.
The entire book was just too long. And there was just so much missing, so many details that I think would have really added to the story. All things that we've already mentioned, but um, yeah. So I am disappointed in this one because I was so intrigued with this premise.
Mhm.
But I think the only way that I would have liked this book is if we got POVs from at least some of the users, if
Mhm.
not also a corpse. But because I don't know, yeah. Because I mean, when you hear of a book about a dating app, essentially, like you
Mhm.
think you're going to be seeing points of view from the people using the dating app.
Yeah. And I think that is where like marketing went wrong on this one
Hmm.
because I wish it would have been marketed as more of like a literary
Hmm.
discussion about capitalism and modern intimacy because that's really what it is,
Hmm.
right? It's a character study on a company is
Hmm. Yeah.
and so like if we had known that going in, like they have this like this pithy, trope where it's like, oh, we're dating corpses. And I'm immediately like, yes, give it to me. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like,
Mhm.
put it in my hands. Um, and I don't think I'm necessarily the target audience though,
Mhm.
Because like when I hear that, like I'm looking for like the body horror. I'm looking for
Mhm.
like, the mistakes. I'm looking for like I want it to get like what's the right word? I don't even know. Like more like scrappy. That's
Mhm.
I don't know if that explains what I'm feeling, but like I wanted to get into like the thick of it,
Yeah.
and we didn't do that. We did not do that.
Right.
So that was unfortunate. What was your rating though? What did you say?
No, I didn't yet. So 2 stars is what
Okay.
I'm going with. Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioning what you just mentioned though made me think of The One by John Mars and how we
Yes.
got all of those different points of view.
Yes.
And they mentioned in the book some like instances where people would like toss the bodies. They'd get a hold of the boxes, toss the bodies, and then they themselves would hide in the box, get into somebody's house, and then either attack the person or like ransack it. Like, how cool would it have been to have a POV of a situation like that happening?
Yes.
Like, that would have been so much more exciting.
That's so funny that you brought up John Mars as the one because I was
Mhm.
thinking exactly that. Like the second I would brought up like wanting points of view from the people, like
Mhm.
that's such a John Mars thing is that like
Mhm.
you get their each point of view and you get like deeply into their motivations. It
Yes.
makes it so much more like thrilling, but at the same time, like this one is, it's more highbrow. It's like
Mhm.
discuss this in a college course. Whereas you wouldn't necessarily do that with the one, but it's
Mhm.
definitely more entertaining.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and that's so
Yeah.
funny that you brought that up because yeah, that's exactly the book I was thinking of too when I was thinking about like all these random perspectives of people. He does
Yeah.
that so well.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, 2 stars, unfortunately. So, alrighty. Well, thank you so much for joining me this month and reading for human use. And anyone, I saw a couple people pop in, but nobody wanted to say anything. That's totally okay. So, if anyone's watching this later, thank you for doing so. Thanks for reading with us. Next month, we will be reading Celestial Lights by Cecile Pinn.
Oh.
This just came out a month, maybe 2 months ago. There will not be a live show. I'm going to take a break from live shows next month, but all chapter breakdowns will still be over on Fable. So be sure to add all of your thoughts. And I not promising, but I do have every intention of at least vlogging this book. So there could still be a reading vlog to watch at the end, um, if anyone is interested in watching that. So
I actually haven't heard of that one. What's
oh, really?
the elevator pitch on that?
So whoopsies, let me pull Goodreads back up. I, for whatever reason, thought this was written by a man, but it's not. It's written by a woman. But a beautiful, heartbreaking novel about ambition, love, and space from award-winning author of the Women's Prize, longlisted Wandering Souls. I've not heard of that. But anyway, soon after launch, the Challenger shuttles. Okay, let me start over. Soon after launch, the Challenger shuttle falls out of the sky and into the sea. At the same time, Oliver Inez is born. Celestial Lights is his story. Ollie spends his childhood in an English village where his bedroom is covered in glow-in-the-dark wallpaper bearing the planets and stars. Decades later, he has become one of the most renowned astronauts of his time. Yada, yada, yada. So a little more spacey. Got some astronaut talk in there. So.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen Project Hail Mary?
Yes, I loved it.
I just saw it last week.
Amazing.
Read it before I went. First of all, the book is better. I'm sorry, the book is better. But I loved it. Oh my God. I loved it so much. I was so glad I finally got to go see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that book. And it's getting a sequel and a sequel adaptation.
What?
Yes.
Why?
What is his name? Andy Weir. Is writing a sequel, and then I guess like he's writing the sequel for the fans and for the film adaptation because they want to do a second film. So like as soon as the sequel comes out, the film is set to come out like shortly after that, which is cool. I'm assuming it's going to have, and I hope. Well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't read it or seen it. I have a lot of hopes and expectations for what that's gonna bring.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to be excited, but I'm nervous. I'm like, it's so perfect as is. Like, I don't want it to mess anything up.
I just love that like Andy Weir is getting all of this credit right now because he's like such a great writer. And like for anyone who doesn't know, he wrote The Martian as well, which was also adapted and made into like a huge movie with Matt Damon and another great adaptation. Like he has really hit the jackpot with people making his books into movies. But I think also like he's just such a great writer that it's like people are compelled to like portray this like deep emotional like depth that he shows. But he also has this like I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent, but like he also has this like juxtaposition of that like deep emotional depth and that like science forward. Like so much fun for me. And I know a lot of people don't like the like how sciencey he writes. But I love it. Like I don't necessarily get it, but I feel like I'm smarter having read it. Right. But yeah, I just thought that would be appropriate to bring up this. It was such a good adaptation and book in general. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just like the pregnancy hormones, but I feel like the entire last half of the movie was just sobbing. Sobbing the whole time.
I just recently learned that you were pregnant. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
23 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So due in August with my third boy.
Wow.
So
3 boys. That's a lot.
Yes.
Energy.
But it's okay. I'm the princess of the house because even our dog is a boy. So. But yeah, it was funny because like at one point my fiance, because I convinced him to go see it with me, he was kind of bored. He's like, it was really long. I was like, just be quiet. Keep your negative opinions to yourself because this was perfection. But he turned and looked at me and he's like, are you crying? I'm like, leave me alone.
That's the story of my life. Like my husband's constantly like, are you seriously crying? It's like a Folgers commercial. Like, go out. I was like crying about everything. It's happy, sad, in between. I'm crying. Like that's it. If I feel, it's called empathy. Okay.
Yes.
Boy, figure it out. It's called empathy. My God. They just don't get it. They just don't get it.
They do not. Alrighty. Well, that's a wrap, everyone.
This is fun.
So
Thank you so much for having me.
yes, of course. I love your insights. Like it's so fun. Like everybody's different, but like you in particular are somebody who like I love listening to you talk about books and
Aw.
just like the thoughts that you have. So like, yeah, any time that I see a book that I feel like you might be interested in, or if I find out you're interested in and it's sci-fi, I'm like, oh, I want Elizabeth back on. I almost said on the podcast, back on the book club.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Most of the
of
time, I feel like I'm
course.
just like babbling anyway. So to hear.
All righty. So thank you, everyone. Like I said, check us out on Fable next month. There will be no live show, but I do hope that you read Celestial Lights with us. So until next time, have a wonderful evening. And yeah, bye.
Thanks so much.